Namaste students, my name is JVS Dr. Neeraj Bhulia, Faculty of Agriculture and Veterinary Science, Jyoti Vidyapeeth, Women's University, Jaipur. So we were studying the proteomics in the previous lectures. So in continuation of that, we will again resume the session. So the proteomics is belong to the subject here, the microbial genomics. So we have understood that what is the proteomics. So the total proteins made by an organism at a particular instance is grouped under the shade of the proteomics. So proteomics involves the systemic study of the proteins in order to provide the comprehensive view of the structure, function, and role in the regulation of the biological system. So it is interesting thing that the Human Genome Project is that there are far more proteins in the human proteome. So around 4 lakh proteins. So then there are protein coding genes in the human genome, that is around 22,000. So the large increase in protein diversity is thought to be due to the alternative splicing, the post-translation modification, and the of the proteins. So the variety of proteins is very much greater than the DNA, RNA, because if we see the simple mathematics and the probability, we know that the component of the or the we can say the units of the nucleic acid is the nucleotide. Okay, and the base nucleotide, nucleic acids are nitrogenous bases are only 4 types. So the 4 types of the nitrogenous bases will produce some amount of the combinations. And if we talk about the proteins, there are 20 amino acids are there. Okay, so the base material is higher in the protein. So the 20 amino acids in the combination, they will form the more very higher combinations and probability to make the diversification in the proteins. So that is one thing. But because of the alternative splicing in the genes, one gene can produce more than one proteins. And of course the post translation modifications are there, which makes the different proteins from a single gene. So that is again a solid thing that creates the more diversity in the proteins. So this indicates that the protein diversity cannot be fully characterized by gene expression analysis alone. So proteomics thus is a useful tool to characterizing the cells and the tissues of interest. So in the previous lectures, we have studied some techniques, and further we will study, if you want to study the three-dimensional study of a protein, so which methods will you adopt? So one of the method is the X-ray crystallography. Okay, so in the X-ray crystal, but it is not possible for all the proteins. It is possible for the proteins which are crystallizable, means the proteins should be crystallized first, and that will then further you can study the proteins using the X-ray crystallography. Okay, so in the X-ray crystallography, we have we can recognize we have to analyze the X-ray diffraction pattern of the molecule, and based on that we can assume the structure of the 3D structure of the protein. Okay, so using the X-ray crystallography, we have understood the structure of the DNA. The Watson and Crick provided the structure of and hypothesized the structure of DNA using the technique X-ray crystallography. Okay, so again you can utilize the NMR also, nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy, for for recognizing the structure of the protein, because they are made from the atoms, and every atom have its a magnetic resonance. Okay, they are made from the electrons and protons, and they have their spin, and each type of atom will have its different resonance pattern, and of course they are influenced with the surrounding atoms or nuclei. So the pattern of the resonance and nuclei and the affecting molecules, collectively they are interpreted, and the resulting structure is assumed. Okay, so again, like the you have heard about the microarray techniques. So DNA microarray is there, the protein microarray is there. So in the proteomics, we will utilize the protein microarray to study the more than one proteins in a single shot. Okay, so in the protein microarray, again there are different types of the array methods. Okay, like the functional array is there. Okay, then the antibody array. Array means the sequence. Okay, so like in the antibody array, you will code the antibodies on a solid support, and you will apply or flow the sample on that. So the respective antigen will be bind there, and you will recognize the presence of the antibody antigen and there. So in antibody array, it is the effectively a parallel series of miniature immunoassays. Okay, like in the ELISA and like in the Western blotting, you perform that are the immunoassay. But this is something the immunoassay, but in a large scale. So there are thousands of the parallel immunoassays will be performed in antibody assay array. Okay, so again the functional array is there. So in that, the purified proteins are arrayed on the surface of the surface of or a solid support to detect and characterize the protein or the again the protein other biomolecule interaction. So functional assay means how they function. So generally they function using the in the association of the different biomolecules. Okay, so to recognize that association, we can utilize the functional array. We will probe the proteins in the solid support, and we will flow the probable molecules out of them. Okay, so the molecule which will be function through the association of that particular protein will bind, and we will recognize them using the detection system. Okay, so like the antibody array, like the functional array, the reverse array is also there. So reverse, because uh, that is not the antibody array, that is the antigen array. So that's why we are saying is the reverse array. So the converse of an antibody array, so this chip, we immobilize the antigens, okay, in the solid support that are used to detect and quantify the respective antibodies in the biological sample. So in the biological sample, so protein assay is both. If you are detecting the antigens in the sample, the antigens are the proteins. If you are detecting the antibodies in the sample, that is again antibodies are again the proteins. So both comes under the proteomics, the study of proteins. So in the reverse assay, we can say it the antigen assay, because here we are detecting the antibodies. So generally antibodies are indirect method, because they are not first thing, they are the second thing, they are responsive thing. So antigens are affecting you, means some viruses or bacteria infected you, and your body produces the antibodies. So they are the indirect way. So we can say it's the reverse array. Okay, so there are many other modifications are also there in the protein microarray. You can also customize the things, and so where the antigen antibody arrays are essentially and they are like ELISA for quantitation of proteins expression, and functional arrays are concerned with the elucidating the novel protein interactions and are thus more akin to the yeast to hybrid system and the co-immunopresentation studies. So the active proteins themselves are immobilized onto the support, and the functional array have the potential to advance the mapping of interacting proteins on the system wide or the genomic wide scale. So the advantage of this method, because it is the in vitro method, so you do not need to use the animals, you do not need to sacrifice the animals, and you can perform the proteomics study using the microarray, protein microarray. Okay, so for the protein proteomics study, we have one method again, that is known as the protein immobilization, yeah, or we can say the enzyme immobilization. So generally enzymes are produced in cell and they are not very much stable. So if we want to reuse the enzymes, if we want to utilize its capacity more, so we have to immobilize it. So enzymes can be immobilized, the cell itself can be immobilized on the solid support like the agarose or the polyacrylamide gel on or other cellulosic material or other solid support. So after the immobilization, we can utilize or we can get the benefit from this enzyme somewhat at higher extent. So methods are there to immobilize the proteins. Okay, so we can couple it with some reagent, and the nature of the surface being coupled to the properties of a good protein array support surface are that it should be chemically stable before and alter the coupling procedures. So the material should be inert, it should not affect our protein or enzyme material after the coupling. Okay, so for the immobilization, you have to take care that after the immobilization, the efficiency of the enzyme will not be altered. Okay, so by keeping the things in mind, we can immobilize the proteins, immobilize the cells, immobilize the enzymes, and we can utilize them at some higher extent. Okay, so many more methods are there, but they all are not possible to discuss. So the important methods are discussed. So hope you are satisfied with this visualization. And if you have any query, you can write in the comment box. And this session is powered by Digital Version 2, Jyoti Vidyapeeth Women's University, Jaipur. Thank you.